Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? Adjamin Synergy coming to you guys here today with another deck. So today we're going to be taking a look at a standard deck, and it is 4-color control. Now, with this 4-color control deck, we're going to be running the colors of blue, white, red, and also black. And basically the main strategy of this deck is just to make it so that your opponent really doesn't do anything with their spells and creatures. And then we drop big stuff like Nicol, Bolas, Planeswalker, and just wreck face. So we're going to jump on into this deck, but before we get to that, if you guys have any suggestions for decks that you would like to see, please leave them down in the comments below. And remember to check out the playlist in the description below where I have all the previous decks that I've covered on the channel. So the first thing, like always, that we're going to be taking a look at here is the land base of the deck. So we have 26 lands here, starting off with Hallowed Fountain. So we're running a playset of the Fountain. We also have Steam Vents as a playset. Blood Crypt as a playset. We have Glacial Fortress as a playset. Isolated Chapel as a playset as well. And we have 2 Sulfur Falls. 1 Nephalia Drownyard as a alternate win condition where we're able to mill out other slower decks like Control and mid-range. And then we just have our basics here. So we have 1 island, 1 plains, and 1 mountain. So 26 land base for our mana distribution and how we're going to have it. And 26 is pretty much appropriate for how control decks would like to pan out and have dependable land drops. Now, we're going to take a look at everything else in this deck. And the key thing with this deck is we don't run any creatures. And that's kind of the way I wanted to have this. Just a deck that doesn't have any creatures, and it's just going to win off of just all the rest of the things combined and all the synergy between the other remaining cards. So our Planeswalkers of the deck, we have Jace, Architect of Thought as a 3-of. And with Jace, Architect of Thought, we're going to use his +1 ability to protect ourselves and Jace as well. Slightly, it's not very significant, but where his real abilities are, they're going to be with his -2 and his -8, where his -2 is like a mini Factor Fiction. We get to reveal the top 3 of our library. Our opponent puts them into 2 piles. 1 goes to our hand of our choice. The other one goes to the bottom of our library. So we essentially get to dig 3 with that ability. And -8 is a bribery for all players. So we get to search our library and our opponent's library for a spell and cast it without paying its mana cost. We have 2 Tamiyo, the Moon Sage. So Tamiyo is really nice because she lets us tap down things and also draw cards, but whenever we get that emblem where we can have cards go to our hand instead of our graveyard anytime they go to the graveyard, we end up just being able to cycle a lot of spells, and that's one of those turning points where we can just win the game from there. We have Nicol, Bolas, Planeswalker as a 2-of, so Nicol Bolas is awesome with his +3 to destroy target non-creature permanent, -2 to gain control of target creature, and -9 he just blows everything up, dealing 7 damage to a player, making them discard 7 cards and sacrifice 7 permanents. Sphinx's Revelation is a 3-of for us, where we get to draw X amount of cards and gain X amount of life, aside from the 3 specific mana that are required for it. Sphinx's Revelation lets us draw more cards, dig for more things, and also gain back life where aggro is going to try to outrace us. We have 1 Rakdos' Return, where we're going to be able to deal X amount of damage to target player and make them discard X amount of cards. So we are well in our ways with that card to be able to just take all of our opponent's resources and make it so that they don't have anything in their hand that they can actually play. We have board wiping elements in the form of a playset of Supreme Verdict to just be able to destroy all creatures and it's uncounterable. And we also have 2 Terminus, where all creatures are going to be put onto the bottom of their owner's libraries, and it has a miracle cost for 1 white. So if we can use the miracle cost off of it, it's definitely very nice for us and very worth the mana. We have 2 Detention Spheres, so being able to exile a permanent not named Detention Sphere and all other permanents that share the same name as the permanent that we're exiling. It's very appropriate for either big creatures or planeswalkers, especially in multiples for creatures and tokens and stuff like that. Azorius Charm really only has 2 abilities for us that are relevant. So it's going to either let us draw a card or bounce a attacking or blocking creature back to the top of its owner's library. And it does pretty good for that. As far as game 1 goes, we're able to bounce things that like have haste, like Thundermaw, Hellkite, and assure that our opponent's not really going to be able to do anything until we get a solid response for stuff like that. But Azorius Charm is very good in just being able to either provide one or the other ability for us, depending on what situation we're in. We have counter spells in the form of 3 Dissipates. So Dissipate is just a 3-cost, 1 generic, double blue, and it counters a spell and it's exiled if it's successfully countered, so we don't have to worry about our opponent flashing it back or reanimating said creature or something like that. We are also running 3 Think Twice to be able to draw more cards. So Think Twice is nice because we essentially get to draw 2 cards off of the Think Twice, and it's effective because we can cast it early on and draw for a little bit of mana, and then we can draw for just 1 more additional mana apart from the original casting cost to draw an additional card. So Think Twice is nice in being able to, again, just dig a little bit more, search for more land drops or bigger threats, planeswalkers, stuff like that. We have 1 Elixir of Immortality that's going to let us kind of stay in the game as far as control versus control goes, where control is essentially going to try to mill us out. So we have 1 of them, and we also can gain life off of Elixir in other different matchups as far as game 1 is concerned. We have 3 Searing Spear that are going to deal 3 damage to target creature or player, so it's versatile against dealing with our opponent's creatures as well as being able to just burn our opponent out directly. And then we have 2 Pillar of Flame, so Pillar of Flame is going to be nice up against like zombie matchups mainly, but it's 1 red and it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. If a creature dies during the turn due to like an effect of Pillar of Flame from taking that damage, it's going to be exiled instead. So Pillar of Flame allows us to exile stuff like Gravecrawler, Drawf's Messenger, and also if we're able to get the Tamiyo emblem and we have enough sources of red, we can just keep on casting Pillar of Flame and burning out our opponent and winning from just burning them out in that sense. So that is the main board that we have here. Now we're going to take a look at the sideboard. So for the sideboard, we have Negate as a 3-of, and this is going to be good up against any decks that are heavy with non-creature spells. So mainly the control matchup is where Negate is going to be really key. So 3 of them. We have 1 more Terminus in the sideboard for other aggro matchups, especially zombies as well, where we can miracle it off. The Miracle is also very relevant if we're able to think twice during our opponent's turn. If we have the mana open to Miracle, if we draw it, we're able to cast it during our opponent's turn and reset their all their creatures just go away. We're able just to hit the big reset button there. So 1 Terminus. We have 2 Jace Memory Adept. So Jace Memory Adept's going to let us mill out our opponent as a alternate win condition to being able to just drop like big Nicol Bolas and just get rid of all of their stuff. But Jace with a 0 ability lets us mill for 10 each turn, and it puts our opponent on the clock. And Jace is pretty key as far as playing up against control on any slower decks. He's really good for that. We have 1 Slaughter Games where it's not counterable by spells and abilities, and we can name a non-land card and search our opponent's library, hand, and graveyard for any copies of that named card. So we can get rid of big threats our opponents may be using. The big thing about it is the fact that it's uncounterable, so we can have the assurance of getting rid of something and not having it be countered. We also have 3 Rest in Peace, so up against the blue-white flash decks, anything that relies heavily on graveyards like Reanimator, we can side it in and have the utility of being able to restrict any graveyard shenanigans. We also have 2 Pillar of Flame for the zombies matchup, so we can side them in and start making sure that our opponent's creatures are going to be exiled instead of dying and triggering off any undying triggers or even Gravecrawler reoccurring. And we have 2 Ultimate Price that we can side in up against stuff like Hellrider and also Thundermaw Hellkite, where Searing Spear can deal with Hellrider, but it can't necessarily deal with Thundermaw Hellkite, so we have the ultimate price, and it can just get rid of monocolored creatures. And then we have one single erase, so the erase is good for other matchups where they're going to be running stuff like Detention Sphere and Oblivion Ring, where it's just one white and we exile target enchantment, and we don't really have any spells as far as white, blue, or red goes to exile both enchantments and artifacts alike, so erase was a pretty nice choice to have in the deck, where we're able to exile it instead of our opponent being able to like reshuffle their graveyard into their library with like Elixir of Immortality or something like that. But the erase for just one white was pretty nice, and it actually comes in handy here and there, especially if we're tight on the mana that we're actually using. So that's the main board and sideboard that we have here for this 4-color control deck. If you guys enjoyed it, please be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe for more Magic the Gathering content. The entire deck list is below where you guys can use it as a reference. And until next time, guys, have a wonderful, fun-filled Magic the Gathering day.